Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're opening up a blueprint for accelerated learning. Our mission is exceptionally precise, almost surgical. We're looking at an excerpt from a guide called Foundations of English Listening and Repetition. And this isn't, philosophical material. It's a stack of really strict instructional design specifications. We're going to treat this document like an architect's plan. We're hunting for the exact recipe, the non-negotiable structural elements, for getting maximum efficiency in one very specific exercise, the short-form listening and repetition drill. The instructions detail everything: duration, complexity, delivery speed, and the required supporting tools. We need to figure out not just what the recipe is, but the educational logic behind every single ingredient. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, what's so fascinating about these kinds of foundational texts is just how rigorous they are. They really treat the learner's brain as a system with, finite resources, and their instructions are designed to optimize that system. Every single constraint mentioned, whether it's a time limit or a specific feature, it serves a distinct function. If you violate one of these rules, you risk creating friction for the learner, and friction is the enemy of repetition and confidence.
Right.
So we need to understand why these constraints are so foundational.
Let's start with the hard constraints on the material itself then. The very first instruction sets an absolute limit. Make a 1-minute English listening practice video.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute. In a world of, infinite sprawling content, that 1-minute duration is an act of extreme discipline. Why 60 seconds? Why is that so critical? It almost feels counterintuitive, right? To maximize learning by minimizing the time. For you, the listener, this suggests the creators are forcing intense focus. It's like they're saying high fidelity beats high volume every single time.
It's all about managing cognitive bandwidth. That's the key.
Cognitive bandwidth.
Exactly. You have to think of your working memory not as a bucket, but as a small, fast-draining battery. Language acquisition, especially when you're dealing with new sounds and trying to map those sounds to production.
Coordinating the mouth muscles and all that.
Yes, all of that. It's incredibly taxing. So by limiting the input to this highly focused, intense 60 seconds, the designers ensure that the learner can dedicate 100% of their cognitive resources to the task.
I see.
If the video were, say, 5 minutes long, the quality of your attention would degrade dramatically after that first minute. The successes you achieved early on would just be undone by fatigue and distraction. So the 1-minute rule isn't just about making it manageable, it's about forcing maximum neurological fidelity.
That makes a lot of sense. We're trading duration for quality of attention. But that focus only works if the content is also manageable, which I guess brings us to the next key constraint.
The content itself.
Yeah, the requirement for short, simple sentences. Now, here's my challenge to the material. We need to learn complex English to function in the real world. By insisting on simplicity, are we not just delaying the inevitable struggle with depth and nuance? Why sacrifice grammatical complexity?
Because the goal of this specific exercise is not decoding complex grammar.
Right.
The goal is sound production and auditory comprehension. The simple sentence structure is a deliberate, tactical sacrifice. We are temporarily sabotaging complexity for a very good reason.
Okay, so what's the reason?
Well, when a learner hears a complex sentence, their brain has to do 3 things at once. 1, translate the meaning.
Okay.
2, decode the grammatical structure. Is it passive? Is it conditional? And 3, process the actual acoustic sounds.
That's a lot to juggle.
It is. That simultaneous load causes the system to crash, or at the very least, it shifts the learner's focus away from the sound. By using short, simple sentences, the designer removes that structural decoding burden. Now, all the learner's energy is redirected entirely to the 2 core tasks: hearing the sound correctly and getting their mouth to accurately produce that sound. We're building sound and rhythm muscle memory first. Simple sentences are the engine that guarantees rapid, repeated, and successful output.
So simplicity isn't the final destination. It's just the efficient ramp we use to train the ear and the mouth before we force the brain to handle all that complexity.
Yeah.
We're isolating the skill.
Exactly. You've got it.
Okay, so now that we've constrained the focus and simplified the structure, we have to look at the next variable that can ruin everything: delivery speed. The instruction dictates the sentences must be spoken slowly. But if we practice slowly, aren't we just training ourselves to speak slowly?
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap between deliberate, optimized input and, real-world, fast, frantic conversation?
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the instruction seems to contradict the ultimate goal of fluency.
It's a common and extremely smart question. The answer lies in understanding the difference between practice speed and performance speed.
Ah.
This slow delivery isn't how you will eventually speak, but it is the required speed for mapping the language correctly in your brain. When you listen to natural conversation speed, words just blur together. For a non-native speaker, a lot of subtle acoustic cues, the linking sounds, the dropped consonants, the difference between ship and sheep,
They can be missed entirely.
entirely.
Yeah.
The brain just gets this wall of sound and often fails at segmenting the words, which means the learner can't tell where one word ends and the next one begins.
It's like trying to learn a complex dance move by watching a performance at full speed. You just see a blur of motion. You can't break it down. Precisely. Slow speech is optimized input speed. It's the structural scaffolding that ensures the acoustic data registers clearly. It gives the learner sufficient acoustic time to hear the distinct sound units, recognize the word boundaries, and then mentally prepare their own speech apparatus, their mouth and throat muscles, to imitate the sound.
So if the input is too fast, the output gets, scrambled?
Inevitably. Because the learner defaults to guessing or substituting sounds they think they heard. The slow delivery lowers the cognitive frustration threshold, and it maximizes the exposure to the correct phonetic inventory. It basically guarantees success in the repetition phase.
So it's all about building a robust, accurate foundation before you even attempt to build speed.
Yes, that's the whole game.
So the slow speed is entirely structural then. It's designed not to teach slow talking, but to facilitate the next part of the process. Accurate, low-effort repetition.
You got it.
The final part of the recipe details the non-negotiable supporting features that must be added to this 1-minute video. Subtitles and pauses.
The tools.
The tools. Let's start with subtitles. The video is labeled listening practice, yet visual reinforcement is mandatory. If the ear is the primary target, why are we insisting on anchoring the new sound to spelling? Isn't that just distracting from the auditory task?
You're right that listening is the primary goal, but learning is always most effective when the sensory inputs cooperate. Subtitles force the consolidation of memory by engaging multiple channels.
So you hear it and you see it at the same time.
Exactly. For adult learners especially, linking the sound to the written form, what we call the spelling system, is a necessary bridge. If a learner hears a sound but can't quite distinguish it, the visual cue resolves that ambiguity immediately. This allows the brain to completely skip the step of uncertainty. The learner instantly associates the acoustic signal with the written word and its meaning.
It's the ultimate cheat sheet to ensure 100% comprehension. And that frees up the brain to focus its remaining effort entirely on the hard part, saying the word correctly.
Exactly. Subtitles provide clarity. And that clarity leads us directly to the second, and I would argue most important, feature, the pause. What's fascinating here is how the source material links the pauses directly to the purpose. The instruction says they must be added, and I'm quoting here, so learners can listen and repeat.
That little word so.
That word so tells us everything about the designer's intent. The pause is the single element that transforms this passive video into a structured, active speaking exercise.
So it isn't just a break, it's the designated performance window. But why build that into the video? I mean, couldn't the learner just hit the space bar or the pause button themselves? Why build the inefficiency of silence into an efficiency-focused video?
Because hitting the pause button creates friction.
Friction.
We want this practice to be seamless and habit-forming. Any break in the flow, having to move your hand, search for the button, interrupt the sound loop, it provides a moment for the learner to hesitate or judge their own performance or simply stop.
And you want to remove all those mental roadblocks.
The designer's job is to remove all of them. The built-in pause is a guarantee of time allowance. It is the crucial window for learner output. The flow becomes, hear the simple, slow sentence, see the word, then pause.
And that pause has to be long enough.
It has to be long enough for the learner to activate their speech muscles, retrieve the sound from working memory, and physically produce the repetition.
So the genius of the built-in pause is that it eliminates the labor of self-management. The video manages the timing for you, letting you focus only on the linguistic task.
Yes.
Without that designer-provided pause, the repetition goal just can't be achieved efficiently within the video's framework.
That's the core insight. Subtitles validate the input, and the pause provides the opportunity and the necessary time allowance for output execution. If the pause is too short, the exercise fails. If it's just right, the learner completes that structured loop of listen, process, repeat without any interruption.
It's structure creating success.
That's a perfect way to put it.
This has been a truly illuminating deep dive. I mean, into the instructional philosophy that's hidden inside what looks like a really simple direction. We've successfully reverse engineered the perfect recipe for efficiency. So, what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've derived the 5 foundational elements for the ideal 1-minute listening and repetition exercise. Number 1, a 1-minute duration to force 100% attention fidelity. 2, short, simple sentences to tactically eliminate the grammatical load.
Right.
3, slow speed for optimized acoustic mapping and segmentation. 4, subtitles for necessary visual validation and memory consolidation. And finally, 5, built-in pauses to guarantee the time and space for mandatory active output.
And the takeaway for you is that the strength of this foundation is the deliberate alignment of input and the immediate friction-free opportunity for application. The video's structure maximizes the chance that the learner will succeed, which in turn boosts confidence and cements those memory pathways in your brain. If we connect this detailed instruction to the bigger picture of effective learning, we see a clear philosophical mandate. Consumption, the input, is pretty much useless without immediate structured production.
The output.
The output. And this raises a really important question for all of us beyond just language learning. If the design of effective practice relies so heavily on built-in non-negotiable pauses for output and reflection, where else in our daily lives, when we skim a news article, scroll through a technical document, or just consume digital content, might we be rushing the input without reserving adequate designated space for active repetition, reflection, and consolidation? Are we filling our minds with information without building in the structural breaks required to actually learn?
That's a powerful final thought. The structures of efficiency are often self-imposed, aren't they? Effective learning requires you to build the pause into the schedule, even when the material doesn't provide it for you. So apply these structural foundations to your own learning and start demanding that space for reflection. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.